Okay, excellent. We are live. We are live. Okay, this is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. I'm a little bit early, so let me do a little wardrobe check here. I'm sitting out and back. It's 63 degrees out. I had a magnificent day today. I got to learn quite a bit about the leach field in my septic system. I've been here 15 years and it's never given us a problem. And just lately, right in this area, it's been a little bit stinky. All right, so I got to looking at it, and turns out the leach field was plugged up. And so I had to do quite a bit of research to figure out how to get that unplugged and figure out why it was plugged. So I did. Now I'm kind of an expert on that. And if there's any questions about septic systems, I can take those now. Let's see.
He has all the answers.
Yeah, I got all the answers on septic systems. I had a breakthrough today. I had a breakthrough. And it grossed me out pretty much because what was clogging it up was manure. But I deal with a lot of manure around here. It was just, you know. All right, today's the 4th of September, and we are getting kind of fallish around here. I'm going to keep my microphone right here in the middle so Jill and I can both talk into it. And I have my my sidekick right by my side here, and she's on the computer, and she monitors all the questions and helps me with a couple answers here and again. Let's see, little housekeeping. Homestead hog harvest is coming on the 1st of November, so that's rolling in here, and that will be at Baker's Green Acres. That is a nose to tail processing of hogs class. We start with live hogs. We finish up on it starts on a Friday right afternoon, and we finish up on Sunday, about 3 or 4, depending on how dedicated people are. Some people stay quite a bit longer, and we wind up with a processed hog. All broke down into primals, and then some of those primals we cut down even further. We get into smoking, we get into curing, we get into sausage packing. It is fairly comprehensive for just a 3-day class, but the idea is you should be able to leave here and go home and do it at your house, because we show you the equipment that you need, and you'll see how we've got it rigged up. We do it so anybody can do it. It's not easy, but the difference between a successful homesteader and an unsuccessful homesteader is the successful homesteader is willing to do what the unsuccessful guy is not. Okay, that's just a good thing to live by. And there's going to be another homestead hog harvest on the road. It's an anyone can farm on the road class. It's going to be at Shady Grove Farm in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and that is going to be on the 18th of October.
18 through 20. Yep.
18th, 19th, and 20th. Okay, and that is in Gwynn, Michigan. If you have any questions about that, just go to our website. It's bakersgreenacres.com, and you can see what the schedule is going to be. Is there a reason why you're shaking the table there? Okay. All right. Lately, what I've been doing is I've been digging in on this book here. All right. Now, if you watch my videos, I've made a couple of videos about raising rabbits. We raised rabbits many, many years ago at our last farm, and it was a really neat setup. And this is the book that I went by. I actually bought this at Big R out in Great Falls, Montana. And I've read this cover to cover, I think twice, right? And I started it again last night, and I made it a quarter of the way through. It's a really interesting book, and it tells you why rabbits are a good homestead animal. It's actually a very good it might make a nice little business, actually. I don't know as I'd want to raise so many rabbits that I made my living doing it, but this guy maintains that for a family of 4, you can raise all the rabbits you'd need with 2 does and 1 buck. Okay, nomenclature here: a male rabbit, non-castrated, is a buck, right? And a female rabbit is a. It's out until uh, this guy recommends a New Zealand white. He just up and down New Zealand white. I happen to have Flemish Giants. He refers to them as, kind of an off-brand. But I'm going to get some of the whites too. And the reason why I've chickens out on pasture, I mean, they are eating quite a bit of alfalfa and clover and grass, but primarily their feed is coming from a commercial ration that we buy. We have a local mill, and we're able to get non-GMO, and it's a custom put together type ration. It's okay. It's the chickens grow well on it, and we've done well on it for a long, long time. If anybody needs a recipe, let me know. I can tell you what it is. Whoa. That's loud, isn't it? Huh. But we have to bring in feed off the farm. Now with rabbits, what is nice is the majority of your feed for the rabbits should be or could be on your farm. Example, the other day Sunday we were going through the garden and we were pulling out everything that we could and getting it processed at the picnic table and getting it moved to where it needs to go. And the Chinese cabbage was coming in, and about half of the cabbage was tough and needed to be stripped down. These are great big cabbages like this. And then I was left with this huge pile. Now that pile, I could always feed it to the compost pile, the bacteria in the compost pile, and that's good. Or I could feed it to the pigs, but I have a lot of feed for the pigs. But these rabbits, they made very good use of that refuse that I had. And as we've gone through the garden, just going through and weeding, you pull out some magnificent weeds. And if you look at them as an asset instead of a liability, which if you're going to feed them to your rabbits, they're not a liability, they're an asset. Everything should be an asset. It's just that, is it going to be, what kind of an asset is it going to be? I have so much stuff here that I can compost. That, do I really need a bunch more stuff to compost? I don't get too excited when I go through the garden and I'm weeding and then I'm throwing it on the compost pile. It just doesn't excite me. I know it's not going to waste. I know it's going to good use, but it just doesn't feel like great use. When I go through the garden, take 10 minutes, come out with an armload of nice succulent weeds, and then I take them up to the rabbits and load them in. I load in so much stuff into their cages that you can't even see them in there, and then in the course of 24 hours it's gone. There's no floor in the cages, so any of the pieces that they miss falls through. And then I keep a cultivator over there, a hand cultivator, and I cultivate under their cages, so it just it composts nicely, and it's not an odor issue or anything like that. So I am getting psyched about rabbits, and I want to incorporate that into our meals here on the farm. I'm not planning to grow them for any kind of I'm not going to trade them for dollars. I'm not going to take them to the farmer's market or anything like that. I don't do farmer's market, but who knows? I would trade them if somebody had something good. So, I'm doing it, and I'm pretty excited about it. Once you're set up, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to keep them fed. And then if we have to, in the wintertime, we can just put them on dry hay, or we can put them on those little pellets that they sell. I really don't want to do that because, then you're your bottom line is really suffering. But if you had to, I would. Now, I'm going to read that section in the book again to see what this guy says about, the guy's name is Bob Bennett. This was written in the 80s. I'm going to see what he has to say about just feeding them, off your farm. But I've been watching these rabbits. I got them as adults, and they look fine. It's like they're not losing weight or anything like that. Okay. Let's see, is there anything else? Oh, puppies. I was chastised twice this week and actually called an irresponsible farmer. And I'm going to take the hit on that. I don't think I am an irresponsible farmer. Claire had a litter, was it just 6 months ago? It was in the wintertime. And she cycled, and we knew she was cycling, and we were keeping Obi away from her. And we have a system where we'll open one door and then we'll close another. And we thought we were out of the woods. We thought that she had, gone past her cycle. And one of the kids ran back in the house to get something. And when the kid came out, they were connected, and that's all it took, right? And so she's got 10 puppies now. One of them is spoken for. We actually had somebody come last weekend and put a collar on one of them, and we have 2 more people coming this week. But there was 10, 5 boys, 5 girls, I think. Yep. 5 boys, 5 girls. If you want to check, you can go on Hoobly.com and just look under Great Pyrenees, and you'll see what we have left. And we're asking $500 a piece for them. Not papered animals, but I don't think for the homesteader it's going to make a lot of difference for you. What you really want are animals that have grown up on the farm. By the time they leave at 8 weeks or 10 weeks old, in between there, they'll already been exposed to farm life. They will have watched their parents. It's not like they're in the city and exposed to nothing but a backyard, and then you have to bring them to the farm to get them trained. They'll already be on the road to being trained. We got our first one, and we thought we were going to have to do a bunch of training. We did no training with her. She just picked it up. It's instinctive with them. So, and now we've had 4 of them, 1 male and 3 females, and it is instinctive. You don't have to do any training. All right. So let's see.
Do you want to say anything about the super chat and your need for a new camera?
Well, yeah, Jill wants me to tell you that I need a new camera because some of my videos are not looking so good. So, they look fine to me, but so if anybody wants to do the super chat thing and send me $1,000, that'd be great. Another thing is, I have mentioned on several occasions in my videos things about the Constitution and things that are somewhat anti-establishment, and that's how I feel, and I don't take that back. But it has had an effect on the spreading of these videos. So the way to defeat that, at least this is what I've been told, is if you, look at it, there's a cat right there. If you share these videos and you make comments and stuff, it defeats that algorithmic thing. And then once you get placed in that algorithmic, identified as whoever the Silicon Valley people don't like, you're there for a long time, and I think I'm still there. So these videos don't go very far. It doesn't really, I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it to kind of just have fellowship with other people. But we could reach more people, so if you would like and share and make comments and all that good stuff, I appreciate that. All right, I am ready to take the first question, brother.
All right. Chelsea is back tonight.
Chelsea,
Yeah.
glad to have you back.
They had an issue with worms,
Oh, yeah.
and she wants to
I saw
know
that.
how do you prevent worms? And now that we've had roundworms, can I do anything to my pasture to clean it?
Well, here's my experience with worms. We got our first worms at our first farm, and my kids got them too. Pigs definitely had them, and my kids did get them. And we treated them with Safeguard. I don't know if you can get Safeguard anymore without going to see your vet, and the vet will want to see a stool sample and determine what kind of worms they are. It used to be you could just go to Big R or Family Farm and Fleet or Tractor Supply and just buy it off the shelf. I don't know if you can because I haven't had them in a long time. There's another way to go. You can go with Ivermectin, and that is either a pour-on, you pour it on their back, or you give them a shot.
She can get Safeguard and ivermectin injection.
Well, if you can get Safeguard, I would go that. That's easy, and you just mix it in with their feed. But here's the part of it that I want to communicate with you. When I got here, I said to our vet, who is a friend of ours, where are these things coming from? And the vet said that, well, it comes in hog chow. The worms come in hog chow. And I said, how can that be? And there was some speculation of the people that are working at the feed mills that make, hog chow, that make, it's called hog concentrate, that they are defecating, and they are bringing the worms into the hog chow. That was what my vet said. I don't know. I quit using hog chow a long time ago, and when I did, the majority of the problems that we had around here with different problems, hog problems, went away. Now, that was about the same time that I switched from standard, farm pigs to Mangalitzes. And the first group of Mangalitzes that we had here had problems. They came from the farm that we got them from, which was in Iowa, and they all had a cough, and that passed. Then there was another thing where their hind quarters would lock up, and they would be, paralyzed. Not all of them did it, just maybe about 10% of the herd. That's long gone. That doesn't happen anymore. But I quit a while ago. Somebody got some pigs from me, and I said, "Don't give him hog chow." And he gave him hog chow, I guess. And then he wasn't able to contain them. He didn't follow my directions as far as fencing, and wound up bringing the pigs back while I was gone, and just put them in with my pigs. And I got a whiff of hog chow when I was out there, and next time I saw him, I asked him, "Oh yeah, I brought those pigs back." We lost about 4 or 5 pigs that winter because they would pile up, and I don't know why, but we wound up having to get a wormer and run it through the whole group of pigs because that was what we thought it was, and this was years ago. But yeah, so don't use hog chow. You don't need it. The store or the people at the feed mill will say, "Oh, your pigs are going to stall if you don't," but that's just not true. That's just not true. If a pig is in the wild and it gets a whole bunch of protein, it will eat it. And then if it doesn't have protein for several weeks, has no protein for several weeks. So the diet can be balanced, but it can be balanced out over a long period of time. It doesn't have to be totally balanced at one time. So
She did say she's feeding soaked grains and not hog chow.
no hog chow.
Per
All right, well,
your recommendation earlier.
okay, very good. If you have them, you hit the pigs with Safeguard, and then hit them again. I would read the directions. What about the full moon? Do I need to mention that?
Worm at the full moon and then 10 days after, and you should get
Okay.
everything.
Worm at the full moon, and then 10 days after, and then move them. Get them off of that pasture because, okay, a guy asked me another question. I might as well answer it. How do I supplement feed my pigs when they're on pasture? You know that I grow fields just for the pigs. So it might be a field of turnips. So how do I supplement feed? Well, I do supplement feed, and when I do, I feed them right on the ground. I don't have any feeders in there. I don't think it's necessary. I think, they just push stuff around and they get in them and then they push them up against the fence. I don't use feeders, and several growers that I know turned me on to that years ago, and that's just the way we've done things. But I'm feeding pasture. I'm feeding whatever I grow in the pasture, and then I have a bread disposal contract with a company, so I get a lot of bread. So we're unwrapping it and throwing it right to them. And this is good bread. It's not like Wonder Bread or anything like that. If that's what I had, that's what I would feed, but that's not what I have. So what I'm saying is, if I'm feeding them on the ground and I have a worm problem, I might be shooting myself in the foot by worming them. They're going to poop out all those worms and then feeding them right on top of it. That wouldn't be a smart thing to do. So if I was you, worm them at the full moon, 10 days later, worm them again, and then move them. And the worms that they do put out, I've heard that they can survive all kinds of things, but I just don't see how they could survive wintertime or in the baking sun. Either extreme I think would be difficult for them. There's something else that I do that I think has led to our success, and that is biochar. I think that people need to look into biochar and what it is. It's wood that is roasted in a oxygen depleted environment, and it cooks all the volatiles out of it. Everything that's not carbon, it cooks it out of it, and then carbon, straight carbon like charcoal. I'm not talking briquettes. I'm talking like lump charcoal, and you can actually get that at Gordon Foods has it. Several places have it now. It's just called lump charcoal. Sometimes it's called cowboy charcoal. You can buy that and you can feed that to your animals. Believe it or not, they will eat that very quickly. And when you watch them chow down through it, you'll say, "I wonder what this stuff tastes like," and you may take a bite of it yourself. I have. Uh-oh, low battery. We unplugged? Okay. Well, I'm plugged in, so it should be okay. If not, you know why? It's cold out. 60 degrees outside. So biochar is a good thing. You need to probably look at
She gave wood ash this morning.
wood ash.
Not quite the same.
Wood ash is different than biochar. Wood ash would be if you took biochar and burned it down the rest of the way, it would just be ash. The char is the black pieces. Sometimes you'll have an end of a log in a campfire. It will have a lot of black on one end and just wood on the other end. Throw that to your pigs. That is basically, it's charcoal, and some places in the world they feed a lot of charcoal. I was stationed in Japan, and they there was always stories going around that they cremated Japanese people and spread the ashes on the vegetable field. They tell all kinds of crazy stories, and GIs promote them. So anyway, how's that for the answer for that question, Chelsea?
Yeah, she said she did have a few of those and threw them in there too.
Yeah.
Out of her stove.
And keep an eye out for worms. And my other thought on worms are, they didn't arrive here from another world. They were part of the system. And so if you eliminate all the worms, I think you might be setting up a vacuum that something else could move into. So I don't, unless you're seeing just a massive amount of worms, I wouldn't get too excited about it. You know, I just wouldn't. Now, if your kids get them, they'll get excited. I can tell you they'll get excited. And then they do about the same thing with them. Although I wouldn't recommend giving them a shot of ivermectin. But we were in the Air Force at the time, and Jill found a worm in a diaper and brought it into the clinic, and the doc said, "You guys have pigs?" She said, "Yeah." So we all got a little pill. That was it. We wormed them.
And actually, we had ones recently. One poor child thought he was pooping his guts out.
Yeah.
And we just went to our chiropractor, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, no problem." And he had stuff for us.
Yeah.
So.
Any more questions?
What else do you use biochar for?
Okay, biochar. We use biochar in our soil, so I feed it to the animals here. It goes through them, and when it goes through their system, they inoculate it with their gut bacteria. And then when it is deposited out on the ground, their gut bacteria is protected by the biochar. It makes like little apartment buildings that they can live in. And, you know, if we want to build healthy soils, we want to build a healthy environment, we want a diverse, well balanced bacteria in our soil. And that's what's going to give us a soil that has the ability to digest. And that's what we need, because we want to build more soil. So biochar is something that you feed to your pigs, or you feed to your cows, you feed to your animals. My chickens go wild for it. It prevents coccidiosis. If you're doing chickens out on pasture, coccidiosis is a pretty common affliction. You'll notice that their manures are getting a little bit red. You leave them go and they get real red, and then the chicken loses the ability to take any nutrient out of its feed, and they just basically starve, or they'll stagnate to the point where they'll be way old and not ready to process. So with biochar, especially if it's biochar that has already been inoculated, like if you can build an inoculant, which is not hard to do, it's actually very simple to do. I make inoculant. I have a black plastic barrel, and I will put weeds in that with the roots and all, and then it sits in the sun, and it gets a little stinky. It's inoculated, and you pour that on your biochar, crunch it up, and then feed it. And what you're doing is you're giving them a probiotic. So you're putting bacteria into their gut, and then the Coccidia protozoa that is also present will be able to have something to eat and not attack the bird, right? So that's one of the things we use it for. I put it in the compost pile. Yeah, that's about it. We have a retort that we built many, many years ago, and it makes about 250 pounds of biochar per burn. And I guess I need to make a video about that here coming up so you can see how that's done and show how the retort's made. But in the meantime, go ahead and get some of that lump charcoal. It's not the premium stuff, because if you saw biochar that comes out of my retort and you were to hold it and you were to smell it and taste it, it has no smell, no taste. But the cowboy charcoal does have a smell and a taste, and that's because you're going to use it to cook on, and you want that wood smoke, that wood flavor into the meats. So they don't make it in an oxygen deprived environment like I would, and they don't burn it to the degree that I do. And I'd have to show you how mine works. But mine works so long as there is volatiles still in the wood. But once the volatiles are gone, it just goes out. Yeah, I'll have to show that sometime. It's kind of a deep subject. Or you can go online. There's plenty of guys doing biochar.
And you've got a lot of biochar videos. Oops.
Oh,
Sorry about that. Under the soils compost biochar playlist. There's a lot of them.
Concur.
Eddie Watling wants to know, what was the name of the radishes you plant for the pigs? They couldn't find anything like that by them.
Okay. Okay, Eddie has a question. What are the turnips or the radishes that we plant for the pigs? Oh, I'm glad you reminded me of that. We use forage radishes, and I think those came from, where'd they come from, Jill?
I got them from
Fedco?
Fedco.
Fedco.
Fedco.com.
Fedco.com. It's out in Maine, you know, and they are wicked good. If you get them from Maine, they are wicked good. They're also called daikon radishes. Daikon radishes you would buy in a small package and you plant them in your garden. Forage radishes, you get them in a big bag, and they're a whole lot cheaper, but they don't call them daikon radishes. But they look the same, they have the same top. When you break them open and you eat them, they taste the same. All right, if you do radishes and you turn the pigs in on them, I just did that this week. They don't get real excited at first. They'll eat the tops, and they're not real interested in the radish itself. After a while, they start eating them, and they're very sweet, and they start to like them. I think it's because the outside of them doesn't taste so good. A lot of skeeters out tonight. But once they get into them, they really like them. But you got to be patient. All right. They don't grow real well in the spring. It needs to be a little bit warm for them to go. So I would plant them. Well, I'm in northern Michigan, so I would not plant them in the spring early on. I would go with something that's cold hardy, like peas, field peas, and turnips. But turnips, I think I was chastised the other day because somebody on Facebook said was holding up, there was a woman holding up a purple top turnip and saying, I planted 2 acres of these things and they won't touch them. Well, as soon as it gets cold, like the first freeze or 1 or 2 or 3 freezes, they become sweet. And you should even try that out yourself. Go out there and you got a nice turnip, pull it up now before it's froze, and they're not that good. I mean, you could eat them if you had to, but it wouldn't be my first choice of things to eat, you know, around the farm. But then once it gets cold and you get one out of the ground, they're actually quite sweet and pretty good to eat. So, if you get turnips from farmer's market, let's say in the summer, and they're the right size, turnips are harvested when they're the right size. But they might not be good until later in the season when, you know, like I have some now, and they're big like this, and they got splits in them and everything else, and everybody's just walking past them. Nobody wants to eat them, but as soon as it gets cold, they'll eat them. They'll eat them, or we'll eat them. They'll eat them.
Yeah, the cold sets the sugar.
Cold sets the sugar. Yep. How we doing?
Oh, pretty good.
Okay, we got a lot of people here. Can we get some questions? Jill's kind of looking sideways.
What's going into fall? What's your favorite forages to be planting for the pigs right now?
Right now, I plant 2 things. I plant purple top turnips, and I plant rye. If you have sandy soils, either will do well, and either will build your soil. With rye, I'm not going to put animals on it this fall. I want to get a good stand of rye, you know, like up about 6 or 8 inches, and then let it get snowed on. And then what happens is it covers the ground Mother Nature wants to cover herself in the wintertime. Once she's covered, she's fine. It protects a lot of that bacteria, and all the other biology that's in the soil is protected, and it can adhere to the roots and things like that. And then when it snows, the snow comes down over the rye, and the rye's standing there like this. So a lot of times the rye will be up above the snow for quite a while, and you may think that it's not, but it still grows. And we've actually seen it where it grows while it's under the snow, and all of a sudden, boop, it pops out. And you may be thinking, "Oh no, the snow just settled." No, no, I watched it closely, and I've seen it come right through the snow. So it does still grow, and then when spring comes around, starts to melt, um, you know, that rye is being watered really heavily, and as the snow recedes, the rye is up there, and it's taking in all that nice sunlight, feeding the soil with the sunlight before the snow is even gone. And then once the snow is gone, it's like that soil is way ahead of the game because it's already got a good shot of sunlight ahead of everything. And then it just, when the soil warms, it just takes off. And if you don't have to graze that in the summer, let's say you're doing pigs, you're not exactly going to graze it. They're just going to go and they're going to start eating. They're going to eat the root balls and everything. They're going to dig it up, and you're not going to have any more rye. But the good news is they're going to manure all that back and urinate and all that. So you're going to be building soil for sure. I've got fields that were just sand, and now they're good, rich loamy sand. Yeah, loamy sand. Sandy loam. I don't know. Sandy loam, yeah. But real nice for growing in. You can pick it up, smell it. It smells really good. If you don't have to graze it, like if you're going to put cows on it, they're just going to eat it off. They won't take the roots. Then it will bounce back, and if it makes heads, and those heads get ripe and are left to dry, they will fall off, and that field will get so thick you won't believe it, because the stuff is designed so that when those kernels fall, they fall down in between the plants, and they actually reseed. But they reseed much better when you have a root base already. And I'm not sure the reason why. I just know it does work, and it does work really well. I was told that when I first started, and I looked for it, and sure enough. So rye, very good. It's cheap. It will come up in just about anything, and all your animals will eat it. I'm down to 10% battery here. That's not good. And I'm plugged in. It's because it's cold.
Another good reason you need a new phone.
Yeah, I need a new phone. So. All right, any more questions?
Yeah. Hammering Truth wants to know, is the UP too cold for pigs?
No.
Hammering Truth needs to come to Hog Harvest at Gwyn.
Yeah, Hammering Truth, you need to go to Hog Harvest in Gwyn. That is where we do a hog harvest, and we teach that. It's a 3-day class. It's at Shady Grove. No.
Yes.
Mangalitsa pigs will do well any place. I don't think that they would do well in the Arctic, but so long as they could get the calories that they need, it's not too cold for them, because they fur right up, and they have an outer fur and an inner fur. They sleep right out in the open here, and they're fine. You never see them shiver or anything like that. I have transported pigs before, and my assumption was, well, I'm not going too far. They'll be fine in the back of an open pickup. And then it wound up being a little bit further, and I started getting a little worried. And it was February, and I thought, maybe I should stop just so they can warm up, and they were all huddled up. Well, I went back there, and I put my hand in between them, and they were not cold at all. There was no shivering. They're built different than we are. That's all there is to it. And they do very well in the cold, very well in the snow. They eat snow. How's that? Any more questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, Eddie, I'm going to move my pigs this weekend. Should I throw seeds now and let them tramp it in?
That's not a bad idea. But if you have any equipment at all, it's kind of nice to smooth things out, and I get in there with a cultivator. I don't have to, and I guess you don't have to. So, depending on how big you are and how many pigs there are in there, it might take a few days for them to push stuff in. But I've watched my pigs walk around and eat rye off the ground. So, I don't know. If you very small seeds like turnip seeds and stuff like that, it's too small for them to pick up. So, and another thing, this time of the year, right now, you Mangalitsa people, acorns are hitting the ground. Now is the time to go out and pick up all that free feed that's out there. Um, the caloric value on acorns is 4 times that of corn. Okay, so take advantage of that. And there's a lot of good oils in that, a lot of good minerals in those acorns that comes from deep down in the soil. Your corn is only going down about this deep in the soil, and the roots of the trees, oak trees, is going down quite a ways. I remember one time I said 100 feet, and somebody called me on it, and they said, that's not true. Well, that's what I was told. Read it on the internet, read it in a book. I don't know how deep they go. Never dug one up, but I know it's deeper than a corn stalk. So, and we have a heck of a good time going out and getting acorns, and you bring them back, and your pigs are so happy to get them, and it's just free feed. It's just nice, really nice. If I lose you all, it's because my battery has gone. I am plugged in, but it's a little chilly out, and it's not working too good. So let's keep
says
going.
not for mangoes.
Said what?
Not for mangoes.
Not for mangas? Not for mangas? What do you mean, not acorns for mangas? Are you kidding? That's how we.
Clarify, Scott.
Yeah, could you clarify that? That's how we found out that you can feed acorns to pigs was through. Let's see. Speaking of acorns, do I think it's worth seeding acorns? Yeah. Like me, I'm planning on living till about 130. So if I put them in now, I think I might see some acorns coming down. Oh, this phone's getting real cold here, people. I'm going to put my hand behind it. I can see it's not liking us. Yeah, somebody just said Mangalitsa's was made for the UP. Was that you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, acorns for food.
Yeah, acorns for food. You cannot beat them. You cannot beat them, and it's so much fun to go out and pick them up. We have these little things called bag a nut, and you can still get them. They're like golf ball picker-uppers, and they're just, single use, or I mean single person type thing. You push them along, and it picks them up so fast. You can pick up a lot of them. You go to cemeteries, go to state parks, any place where there's a lot of oak trees, and you can pick them up. We have our little honey holes that we go to, so I don't want to share them with you. Okay, do we have any more? Wow, we have 20,000 people listening. My phone is getting cold. What a drag.
Any thoughts on the China hog problem and China owning Smithfield?
Yeah.
This is from Ken. Denver.
Ken?
Yeah.
All right, I just heard about this today. They're having a really bad problem over in China. I feel so sorry for them, but they're getting some sort of plague, actually. I think it's hog cholera, I believe.
Ooh, that's.
Yeah, it's a bad one, but it's only bad for pigs. But the problem with it is, it's very hard to control, and another reason why you don't want to use hog concentrate, because find out what hog concentrate is, and then you'll figure out why you don't want to use it, because you don't want that in your herd. But actually, the solution to pollution is dilution. Okay, remember that. So when you keep your animals spread out, they are built to deal with those types of problems. So keep them spread out, and you're not going to have that problem. But yeah, the Chinese own Smithfield now, right? Chinese people eat pork the way we eat beef. It's like their main source of protein, and there's a lot of problems with hog feed this year because of our planting problems that we had. This, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch and see what happens. I don't think I'm going to have any problems with not having enough pig for me, and this is kind of nice. This is why it's nice to be in the homesteading business, is because when these problems do come on the horizon, which they have quite a few times since I've been homesteading, you kind of say, well, I am my own grocery store. I am my own bank. I am my own processor, and I don't have to rely on, anybody else. If you can process your own pigs, you are in a very small percentage of people. And if you can process pigs, you can process deer, you can process beef. You may think you can't, but you can. If you have to turn a cow into something that you can eat, it may not look the same as it does at the store, but that's okay. After you've done it a few times, it will. And who says what you're looking at the store is the way it ought to be, you know? So don't worry about that. Learn to butcher. My poor phone is cold.
Not a great question? Today, should I stop them or let them be? New to this homesteading thing. The goat was probably trying to tell him who's boss.
Yeah, the goat was fornicating with the cattle. That's a touchy one. This is happening all over the countryside. Like, I have a cow here, and I swear she identifies as a horse because she's hanging around with a horse all the time. And I'm a little, I don't know, I'm trying to be sensitive to the needs of my animals. If this cow wants to identify as a horse, ah, okay. No, we lost it. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Maybe, can you still hear me? No. My phone is actually hot. You can still hear me? Well, I
Oh,
might as well
okay.
keep going then. That was a joke.
oh, can hear you. No picture.
Okay, well, it must be because of my cold phone. But, no, I don't know why a goat would fornicate with a cow, but, yeah, it's not like the cow's going to get pregnant by the goat. And if it does, let us know. That might be kind of interesting. Are there any more questions?
That's all I have.
Okay, well, that's all we have for tonight. I'm sorry about the cold phone. Next week, probably, unless we get some
We're gonna
warm
have to be
weather,
inside.
we will be inside, and we won't have these problems. So, thanks everybody for coming. Get out there and get after your farming this week, and try to put together some questions for us. And remember to like and share these videos. And for other videos, you can go to Baker's Green Acres YouTube and come on over and join the Facebook page. It's the Facebook page is what's the name of that page?
Anyone can farm
Oh,
tribe?
Anyone Can Farm Tribe. All right, it's a Facebook page that you have to request entry into, and all that means is if you see something there that you don't like, then you can leave. You know, but Facebook is real funny about certain things. Anything that they think is inappropriate, they don't like. So, and we talk about things on there that are a little out of the ordinary, things I don't talk about on my regular channel. Did you have some input?
Yeah, if you've seen anybody else's channel on here, just a shout out to a few of them, like Eric Hale. I know he's got a great channel. Ken Denzer has a Mary Ken Homestead. My Abundant Living channel, I was on here a bit tonight. Check some of them out. They got good stuff going on.
All right. All right. That's all. This is Mark from Baker's Green Acres. Remember, anyone can farm.